Hello, and thank you for stopping by yet another edition of the Massachusetts Beer Reviews channel of YouTube. I am Thomas Metal75, and this is your Massachusetts Beer Review, a American classic beer to discuss today. Nothing too craft related, but it's still a beer that I haven't looked at, and I certainly think it's one worth discussing and giving you my thoughts and opinions on. Classic, established in 1903 from the Miller Brewing Company. Miller High Life. There you go, Miller High Life. Champagne of beers, as we all know it to be. And according to the MillerCoors.com website over here, I have it on my tablet here. They say that this is brewed with water, barley malt, corn syrup, the maltose, yeast, and hop extract. And they say it's the quintessential classic beer, American beer. Miller, Frederick Miller in 1903 created Miller High Life because he believed that the good life, the high life, should be accessible to everyone, not just the upper crust. And they're using a hop called Galena hops, and they use Galena hops in a lot of the Miller beers to help prevent skunking. They claim, Miller's Brewing Company claims that the Galena hops are light resistant and will not skunk. This particular beer, on the back of the can, on the bottom of the can, says April 10th, 2017. I think that's the best by date. So when I bought it, we were within the date. So I think it's all right. I don't really care. I'm not going to knock it down a few points like some beer reviewers do, and people on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate take a dump on this beer. Although the bros are giving it an 80, and out of 1,133 reviews on Beer Advocate, it's getting a 66, which is a terrible rating. It's an American adjunct lager on Rate Beer. Beer Advocate takes a dump on this one. They give it a 1 out of 100 for the style, or for an overall beer, 9 out of 100 for the style. Now, I think Rate Beer is getting it a little wrong. They're calling it just a standard pale lager, whereas there is the introduction of the corn syrup to make it the adjunct lager. So I'll give the nod a little bit to Beer Advocate, even though, because they're being nicer to it, and they're calling it what it is, I think. So let me get it into the glass here. I'm going to use a standard sort of a craft, as they call it, shaker pint glass, but you can use almost any glassware for this. A stemmed glass would make it look good with the bubbles. Pilsner glass, again, shaker glass, mug, Becker, Stein, whatever you got. So for 12 ounces of Miller High Life, you're getting 4.6 alcohol by volume, 141 calories, 0 grams of fat, 12.2 grams of carbs, less than 1 gram of protein, and they're calling it themselves a American style lager that has won all kinds of awards at the Great American Beer Festival in the World Beer Cup. Go on MillerCoors.com/beers to find out that information. But look at it in some light there, guys. It's the golden pale color that we all come to expect from an American style lager. It's got lots of carbonation, lots of thick foam as well. Definitely thick and rich. A little bit substantial there. Tiny bit soapy, but it is pretty rich and substantial. And it just looks like a classic American beer. And it smells like a classic American lager beer. It has that freshly tapped out of the keg with the hose, that kind of keg beer smell. Definitely some sweetness, definitely the corn syrup, definitely the maltose and the corn huskiness is coming through. Definitely there's a grainy scent to it. There's a little bit of almost a lemoniness, almost. Has a robust, rich scent to it. Not a lot of hops, tiny bit of spice, some white bread, a little bit of that biscuity malt. Kind of smells like a light version of a German Pilsner, almost, in a way. And Frederick Miller, by the way, and I think they were founded in 1865 or 55, was a German immigrant which created the beer. So Now you know how it smells. You know how it looks. If you haven't already tasted Miller High Life before, where have you been? Let's try it together. Cheers, Miller's High Life. And for me, when you want pretty much a plain Jane beer that doesn't have any really terrible flavors to it, doesn't really have any great flavor to it, but it doesn't have nearly a terrible flavor. When you just want a beer when you're thirsty, you just want something to wash down any kind of food, especially spicy foods, fried foods, burgers, pizza, wings. It'll be great for that. Movies, popcorn. The flavor is a little bit pale in the malt. It has your standard keg beer type of flavors, lots of carbonation. Again, there's a little bit to me of that lemoniness in there, not a huge amount of lemon. You're getting the husk, the corn husky notes. You're getting the grainy notes. You're getting that corn syrup note. It's not overly sweet, but there is a underlying sweetness to this beer. Again, like in the scent that I got, I'm getting a little bit of that Pilsner kind of malt. Now, they're just saying that they're using the barley malt, so that's what I'm getting. And they talk about on the Miller Coors website here that it's brewed as a golden lager. It's utilizing those light stable Galena hops from the Northwest Pacific area of the United States. And a select combination of the malted barley, which is giving it, for me, in the adjunct lager style, a bit more richness and body to it. Very not dissimilar to Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, actually. I think this one has a bit more of that corn syrup, kind of a sweetness to it than a Miller or than the Pabst Blue Ribbon, but it's got a nice Pilsner malt to it without being too aggressive. And again, it's not hugely flavored, but for me, when it comes to an American style lager, this one's pretty on point for what you really want. The body is on the high side of light, but definitely light. Very crisp and clean. Very clean, very dry. Not Bud Light dry, but very dry. And the beer, for a 12-pack of these cans in the next town over from me, 12-pack of these cans was $10.99. So I think in my area, in Massachusetts, in New England, the southern part of Massachusetts, it's not a bad deal for beer. It costs the same amount as the beer that I did a couple of reviews ago, the Amber Ale from Fat Tire, the Fat Tire Amber Ale from New Belgium. That was $10.99 for a 6-pack, and this is $10.99 for a 12-pack, so I think you're getting a better deal. And I like how it's got some lacing. I like how the head's sticking around. I like how it's, holding up in the glass. Just has a little bit more body and richer mouthfeel than most adjunct lagers. I think it's a step up from Budweiser. I think it's definitely a step up from light lagers. Coors Banquet beer, I think, is not as good as this. I have to do side-by-side comparison to really determine that. But this is just a good beer, and I don't have a problem giving it a B- or giving it a straight. How about, for what it is, I'm going to give it an 85. It's a step up in flavor without being too much of anything, because, to tell you the truth, these kind of beers need to be a little bit plain Jane to be accessible, and a lot of the drinkers in this country are about these kind of beers, and they need to stay the flavors that they are, because they have a base market, and they have a traditional buyer that goes to the beer store and just buys High Life. I have a bunch of buddies of mine, and one that I play in a band with that just drinks High Life. So that's the testament to having a good beer at a good price and you know how it's going to taste every single time you drink it. So yeah, I'll give that an 85. I mean, a 1 out of 100 as a beer, and a 9 out of 100 for a pale lager by Rate Beer. I just can't take Rate Beer seriously. I'll use the Rate Beer website. I have an account. I don't really use it. I'll use Rate Beer and look at their ratings. I'll use Beer Advocate and look at the ratings. But when it comes to these macro mass-produced beers, people just trash on them. And I think the people that are trashing on these kind of beers are the craft beer fans that already don't have a favorable opinion of these beers. So even before they crack open a Miller High Life, they're already going, this is going to be bad, or they're going to say it's another foul edition of the beer review. It's like, take it for what it is. It's not craft beer. It's not meant to be craft beer. It's not meant to blow your socks off. But when you want a economical priced beer, there's not much better you can go than something like High Life, and it's cheaper than Miller Lite. It's at the sub premium level. $10.99 is cheap for the 12-pack. I think a 12-pack of Miller Lite's gonna cost you in the $11 to $12 range in my area. So if you want to drink a American style lager, High Life's a great way to go for cheap. If you want to drink a cheaper light lager than Miller High Life, get the Miller High Life Light. It's practically the same beer for cheaper price. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to give this an 85 as a beer overall. It's great as an American-style lager. I think one of the best. So tell me what you guys think of Miller High Life. If you had it before, if you've reviewed it, what are your thoughts? And what's your staple kind of a beer from the mass-produced lager companies that you like to buy on a regular basis? So until next time, keep tasting these great beers. This has been Massachusetts Beer Reviews reviewing Miller High Life. Cheers, guys. See you soon.